Brian Kelly provides clarity on who is calling the plays and how it's affecting Garrett Nussmeier. It's Locked on LSU. Let's get it.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We are free, available wherever you get podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. And remember, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. LSU's rolling out another alternate uniform. Gag me with a sweaty tube sock. I got some thoughts on it, but you already know what they are now. Brian Kelly updates the injuries to the offensive line. We'll get to that. But one of the big stories coming out of Saturday's loss to Florida was Brian Kelly, of course, holding a play call sheet and acknowledging after the game that, yes, he is involved in that process now. We had our entire previous episode led with that whole notion, Brian Kelly's comments post-game. So I would strongly encourage you to go check out that episode if you missed it. But to paraphrase, Brian Kelly acknowledged when things aren't going well, the head coach needs to get involved, not calling out or taking responsibility away from Joe Sloan, but involving himself to the effect that he feels he can be helpful. Well, on Monday, Brian Kelly had his weekly press conference, and I was very interested in this topic. So I asked Brian Kelly to clarify the play calling process in the game. Remember, there's new helmet communication whereby the offensive coordinator in the booth can give Garrett Nussmeier the play in his ear. So if Brian Kelly's being involved, how is this working? What is the process to get a play in? And here's what Brian Kelly said.
Yeah, Joe Sloan will call the plays. They'll certainly be on my headset. And look, like any head coach, he's going to be involved in the ultimate decision of whether that's a go or a no-go. Now, as you know, communication has broadened. That communication includes the quarterback as well. So it can't be this long, conversation about, this play, that play, or it becomes confusing to what he's hearing in his ear. Because the head coach is on that and the play caller, both on defense and offense. So there's only three of us that have that with the green dot.
So Garrett can hear you too?
Yes, yeah. I can override that. I choose not to, but it's something that you can do if you wanted to as the head coach. The key here is the ability to make sure that the game is going in the manner that I want it to go in. And at times you have to take that action as a head coach. Not that somebody's being put in the penalty box, but making sure it goes through the vision that I have for that particular game.
Okay, I want to be very clear again. Perhaps you missed the previous episode. I have no problem whatsoever with the head coach calling plays at all. Plenty of head coaches call plays. Billy Napier, who you just played this weekend in Florida, calls plays. Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian. We could go down the list. Jeff Lebby at Mississippi State. There is a litany. There are a litany of great coaches that call plays. Brian Kelly called plays at Central Michigan, at Cincinnati, for a time at Notre Dame as well. Have no problem with it. If you're not pleased with the job your play caller is doing, I have no problem with taking that duty away from him either. What I have a problem with is creating confusion and slowing the process by the coach interjecting himself into the play calling process. Because as you heard Brian Kelly say there, it does slow the process down and it does become confusing. You might have heard off mic, the follow-up I asked was so Garrett can hear you. Because Brian Kelly said you don't want to go long in that process and confuse the quarterback because he's hearing Joe Sloan and Brian Kelly. Again, Garrett Nussmeier is on the field. Put yourself in this moment. There's 80,000 people in the swamp going nuts. He's got helmet comm in his ear. Joe Sloan's giving him a play. If Brian Kelly disagrees with it, now Kelly jumps in. What they're going to change it, and now all of a sudden the play clock's ticking, and you got to get the play called, get to the line, get your checks. I mean, all of that's happening. You want to minimize confusion and reduce distraction and make this as easy and seamless as possible. The next game I call plays will be my first. So it ain't about me telling Brian Kelly how to do this. It's just about understanding very simply, if you're giving instruction to anyone on how to do anything, take yourself away from football. put yourself in a classroom. If you're a teacher and you're trying to give instructions to your students, what if there's someone else standing next to you interjecting every now and again? Do you think that might cause confusion? Yes. What if there's a chef in the kitchen with the ingredients and then someone else is saying, oh, what if we try this with parsley? And like, is that going to cause confusion for the sous chefs and other people on the line cooks? Could. So yes, I want clarity. I want a singular voice, same as in the huddle when the quarterback is calling the plays. No one else in the huddle should be speaking. The quarterback should be the only one speaking so as to eliminate confusion. So this is concerning, and I think it is part of the reason why you see the play clock running down. I can't help but think of the first offensive drive where you went for it on 4th down, and you couldn't get the play in time, and you ultimately burned a timeout. Well, in that moment, that showed very clearly you did not have a play called, ready to go up to the line, run it. You didn't. And that process, I'm not going to say it's altogether broken, but it is disjointed right now. Look, LSU was averaging, over its 6-game winning streak, was averaging 36 points a game. Now you're averaging less than 20 in the last 3 games against Texas A&M, Alabama, and now Florida. So clearly, the players haven't changed. The one exception is Garrett Dellinger, which we're going to talk about that in a second, because I do think that's significant. I'm not minimizing altogether his impact, but you still have the same quarterback and you still have the same great weapons on the outside. If anything, you've gotten better because you've gotten Chris Hilton back and you've gotten CJ Daniels healthy. So it shouldn't be this disjointed right now. And the other part of this that was so interesting to me is Brian, and it wasn't intended to dovetail together, but it did, in my opinion anyway. Later on in the press conference, Brian Kelly was asked what he thought about Garrett Nussmeier's decision-making at Florida. Give a listen.
I thought he was extremely intentional about his actions, in terms of taking care of the football. And he would say that to me coming off the field. Maybe I could have done this, but I was very intentional about making sure we took great care of the football. Look, he is in the midst of this continuous improvement in the pocket, and I think he's doing a really nice job. There's room for growth there, and the great part about it is he's up for it. He wants to get better in this first year of being a starter, and I'm excited about coaching him. I know everybody that is with Garrett has a guy that is totally committed to being better and better each week.
I believe that completely, that Garrett's committed to being better. Did you hear the first part of what Brian Kelly said? That he's being very intentional. Garrett will come to the sideline and tell me, I think I could have done this, but I was trying to protect the football. Y'all, that is a gigantic alarm for me. I'll explain why in just a second. Let me knock out this break, and I want to tell you why what Brian Kelly just said is a gigantic red siren for me. It's Locked on LSU, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Roy. Locked on LSU fans, you need to download the Roy app. You've heard us talking about Roy this season, how they're revolutionizing the NIL industry. Roy allows you, the fan, to have a say in who gets the NIL money. And here's what I love about Roy. You get your money back if that player transfers. Roy is helping us keep our team intact. It's actually good for the game long term. So you can support your players, your favorite player. Let's throw our support to Garrett Nussmeier this week. Since we're talking about him, he protected the football and, by the way, got battered to the tune of 7 sacks and kept getting up. Let's show some appreciation for Garrett Nussmeier, depositing a little appreciation into that player's account. So download the Roy app. You can see what the logo looks like if you're watching on YouTube, or you can go to joinroy.com, joinroy.com. Now, let's spotlight our Roy Player of the Week in Garrett Nussmeier. We're going to throw some money into his account on Roy. Every contribution counts, $10, $20. It all adds up. It's going to help your favorite players stay put. So join me and show some love for LSU quarterback Garrett Nussmeier. Download the Roy app or go to joinroy.com today. Use the promo code LOCKEDON. Every athlete from every team is there. No purchase necessary, void where prohibited. Go to joinroy.com for full terms. Roy, support the players, change the game. Today's show is also, brought to you by Game Time. Speaking of which, if you want to be there in that number this weekend when LSU takes on Vanderbilt, Game Time can help make it happen. Make sure you download the Game Time app. I've told you plenty of great things about the Game Time app. How about the Game Time guarantee, where you always get the best price? So if you find tickets in the same section, same row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. They also have event cancellation protection, job loss assurance, where if you lose your job and you need a refund, Game Time has you covered. They also have 24-hour return guarantees, so you can return your tickets within 24 hours from the time of purchase for a full credit to your Game Time account with no questions asked. You got to check out Game Time. There's so many ways to save money on tickets, no matter when you buy. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem with the code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Okay, I want to get back to the point about what Brian Kelly said about Garrett Nussmeier. And in that clip, you heard Brian Kelly say that Garrett Nussmeier came to the sideline at times against Florida, said, I could have done more here, but I was being intentional about not turning the football over. For me, that is a gigantic red flag. Sirens going off. I would tell you that one of the greatest attributes that Garrett Nussmeier has is what I would call his athletic arrogance. Not every athlete has this, but Garrett does, where he believes he can do anything on the field. He believes he can make any throw. That makes him decisive. That makes him dangerous. When LSU beat Ole Miss, I gave you this example. It's 4th down. Clock is winding. LSU's facing a 4th and 4. This is it. If you don't get 4 yards here, the game is over. The easy thing to do, throw a check down, throw underneath, find someone at the sticks, get 4 yards, move the sticks, give yourself a fresh set of downs and start over. That's not what Garrett Nussmeier did. Garrett Nussmeier hit his back foot and let a ball go to Aaron Anderson that ended up being the game-tying touchdown, forcing overtime. We know LSU won in overtime. But we've all looked at that play now dozens of times. Garrett Nussmeier hit his back foot and let the ball go without a second of thought. And when he let that ball go, Aaron Anderson wasn't open. Aaron Anderson was shielded between the cornerback and the safety, but Garrett Nussmeier was thrown to a spot. He believed he could make the throw, and he believed that his receiver was going to be there. That is instinctive quarterback play. That's what the great ones do. Peyton Manning is the best ever at it. Throwing a receiver open, trusting the route, trusting the concept, throwing an accurate ball. I'm not telling you Garrett Nussmeier is Peyton Manning, but what I'm telling you is that's advanced quarterback play. The way that they'll say normally is in high school, you throw the ball when the receiver is open. In college, you throw it when you're anticipating the receiver breaking open. And in the pros, you throw it to a spot anticipating he will be open at that point. Garrett Nussmeier has made professional throws throughout the course of this season because he is an instinctive player. The bugaboo with Garrett Nussmeier is he is also at times a careless player. What you don't ever want to do with Nussmeier is make him think. And I don't mean to say like dumb down the game. I don't mean that he's not a smart player. What I mean is what I don't want Garrett Nussmeier doing is dropping back with the ball in his hand, hitting his back foot and saying, should I throw this? I don't know. I would normally, but should I? Then what happens? You know what happens? 7 sacks are what happens. Up until Saturday, Garrett Nussmeier and LSU's offensive line had given up a total of 6 sacks all year. They gave up 6 in the second half against Florida. Now, part of that, injuries on the offensive line, which we're going to get to. But I don't know if you noticed, Will Campbell gave up 1 sack, 1 pressure the entire game. Emory Jones gave up 2 pressures, no sacks. The pressure came from the interior, but how many of those were coverage sacks? Because Garrett Nussmeier is holding on to the football because he's thinking. The best thing you could do for a guy like Garrett Nussmeier is allow him to be instinctive. Run with tempo, run with pace, get the play in, get to the line of scrimmage, and run it. The more you make him slow, the more you make him think, the less instinctive he is being. Now, there's a big difference between being instinctive and careless. I'll give you an example. Instinctive is hit your back foot, throw the ball to Aaron Anderson. He's going to be there, and I believe I can make the throw. Boom, instinct, athletic arrogance. Careless is the first interception against Texas A&M. You're up 10, 3rd and 2, rolling to your left. Hey, Garrett, it's 3rd and 2. Put your head down, get north and south, and get the first down. You're up 10. Or run out of bounds. You're up 10. Punt it. Or throw it into the 10th row. It's the middle of the 3rd quarter. You're up 10. Punt it. Your defense has been great all day. At this point, we don't know anything about Marcel Reed coming into the game. But instead, he was careless. Threw the ball back over the middle of the field. There's a big difference between instinctive and careless. I want to purge careless out of his game. I want to keep and magnify and help instinctive Garrett Nussmeier because that's when he's at his best. Well, how do you do that? You go with tempo. You go with pace. You get me a play call in and you say, go run it. And trust Garrett Nussmeier to be the instinctive player that he is, that has almost 3,000 yards passing already on the season. And over 20 touchdowns. I mean, that is who and what Garrett Nussmeier has been this year and when he's been at his best. Now you're slowing him down and making him think. That's a problem. So I don't like too many voices in his head. That sounds like he's hearing voices. I mean, in communications. I don't like the head coach overriding the offensive play caller because it's slowing the whole process. And it's a detriment to Garrett Nussmeier. Look, you got 2 games to go here, and I don't know if this process gets any better. I hope it does. But whatever they do, I hope that what they do is speed it up to allow Garrett Nussmeier to be the best version of himself he can be, and that's someone who's not thinking, someone who's reacting, because he's pretty good at it. Now, I mentioned the offensive line injuries. Of course, Garrett Dellinger missed another game. He was injured against Texas A&M. He missed the game against Alabama. He missed the game against Florida. And then we saw Miles Frazier injured, and he was replaced for a brief time by Tyree Adams, who returned after that sports hernia surgery after the Ole Miss game. Here was an update from Brian Kelly on the offensive lineman.
Yeah, we believe that Miles will be able to practice this week. Dellinger will still be where do we think he is early in the week to make a decision later in the week. We're getting closer. We're getting closer where we think there's a chance that he could play, but we won't make that decision until probably midweek.
Would be fantastic if you have both those guys ready to go, and we'll see. Listen, it's easy to say that a left guard's absence shouldn't cripple your offense, and I agree with that. But the Garrett Dellinger injury has had a domino effect on this offense. Remember, Garrett Dellinger isn't just your left guard. Not only is your most experienced offensive lineman, but he was also, a Pro Football Focus, your highest graded lineman. He made you stronger on the left side next to Will Campbell, and he was a veteran presence next to DJ Chester, who has been your weakest offensive lineman, redshirt freshman, first year starting. DJ Chester having Garrett Dellinger and Miles Frazier next to him elevated him. Didn't make him perfect, but it made him better knowing he had those guys next to him. You take Garrett Dellinger out and you put a redshirt freshman and Paul Mabenga in there, who is your lowest graded offensive lineman. Now, not only are you worse at left guard, but also he's not helping DJ Chester at center as well. It made you worse at 2 positions. And like we just mentioned against Florida, when you gave up 7 sacks, Will Campbell gave up 1 pressure the entire game. It was a sack. Emory Jones gave up 2 pressures, no sacks. The other 6 sacks all came from up the middle. That is the problem. That is the ripple effect of missing Garrett Dellinger. You need Garrett Dellinger back. If he can play this week, you certainly hope he can. If not, you hope Paul Mabenga continues to play well. Or if you get Frazier back, which seems likely, and if Tyree Adams is healthier and ready to go, then Adams gives you a better option at left guard. Remember, Adams was your 6th offensive lineman this year, guard or tackle. If somebody went down, he was going in. Well, he gets injured warming up against Ole Miss, unfortunately, and that meant Paul Mabenga had to go in at left guard whenever you lost Garrett Dellinger. Adams is a better option. If Adams is ready to go, that makes you better. But here's hoping this starting offensive line is whole with Dellinger and Frazier back for the final 2 games. Well, if we do see Dellinger and Frazier on Saturday, they will look dramatically different, as will the rest of the Tigers. Regrettably, I have to talk about this as we wrap up Locked On LSU, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Mint Mobile. I love a great deal as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to crawl through a bed of hot coals just to save a few bucks. It's got to be easy. No hoops, no BS. So when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, called them on it. Turns out it really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month. The longest part of the process is the time you spend on hold, waiting to break up with your old provider. So to get started, go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. Right there, you'll see that right now, all 3-month plans are only $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. So find out how easy it is to switch to Mint Mobile and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. That's mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Well, regrettably, LSU's doing it again. I know some of you are going to call me a crusty old curmudgeon. I know some of you are going to disagree with me wholeheartedly. But LSU announced on Monday, and by the way, I got a sneak peek of this on Friday, but LSU announced on Monday that they are going to wear gold jerseys at home for the game against Vanderbilt on Saturday. I guess maybe this is a little bit of a throwback to the Jerry DiNardo era. If you're not familiar, LSU hired Jerry DiNardo away from Vanderbilt in 1995. And when Jerry DiNardo came to LSU, he brought back the white jerseys at home, that tradition. And as part of the league's policy, the opposing team had to give permission for LSU to wear white at home. And so the visitor would wear their colored home jerseys. Well, Vanderbilt, whom Jerry DiNardo left for LSU, refused to grant LSU that permission in 1996. So instead of wearing purple, LSU wore gold jerseys at home. Now, that would be the end of the gold jerseys. Steve Spurrier was a turd and did the same thing in 1998. LSU upset number 1 Florida in 1997, wearing their white jerseys at home. So a year later, Steve Spurrier said, well, we're going to wear white at home then too. Well, LSU wore gold in that game in Gainesville. Tigers lost that day. In 1997, LSU also wore gold in the Independence Bowl, wore white helmets that day as well. So the Tigers have worn gold. Also against Mississippi State, they wore an old gold sort of throwback look against Mississippi State in Tiger Stadium. That was when Ed Ogeron was the interim head coach. So we've seen this from LSU where they wear these alternates. And by and large, what we've seen has been once a year. And I had a conversation with a former staffer at LSU years ago and said, ultimately, the onus or the directive here is from Nike. Nike wants LSU to wear multiple combinations because LSU wears their gold helmet, white jersey, gold pant, that gold, white, gold combo, home and road. You rarely ever see LSU wear anything else, which is why you started to see them institute the purple jersey for non-conference games at home other than the home opener and Power 5. So you'd see golds every now and again when LSU is, or excuse me, you see the purple jerseys when LSU is playing a lesser school. And then you started to see Nike start to work in the pro combat and then the alternate uniforms that we've seen. The old gold helmet against Arkansas back in 2009. We saw those lost season uniforms in 2018 that they wore against Mississippi State. with the purple reflective helmet. Remember, that was a game where Devin White got ejected for targeting. Anyway, we've seen one-offs. I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of Nike determining LSU's tradition. And I am a traditionalist in some senses, and in others not so much. But this is one of those where I say, listen, if you have a brand, if you have a classic, iconic look, why would you go away from it? The New York Yankees wear their pinstripes at home. What if the Yankees all of a sudden introduce some new all-white, no pinstripe home uniform? It would be stupid because they have an iconic look. The Dallas Cowboys wear a star on their helmet. It's an iconic look. What if they had new helmets that had Cowboys in script on the side? It would be dumb. Why would you do it? LSU has an iconic look, something that is unmistakable. When you see the Fightin' Tigers in Tiger Stadium, the greatest venue in college football, the Eye of the Tiger logo at midfield, you know the Tigers are wearing white at home. And now that's all, it's all lost because you're kowtowing to Nike. And I know you have no say over it. You got to get the money for it. And that's what it's going to be. But in some respects, in negotiations, I would hope you would go through and say, listen, this is our tradition. We'll do this once a year. You want us to wear an alternate uniform? Fine. But what we've seen LSU do now is twice on the road against Arkansas and Texas A&M, where those all white, icy white things. We've seen them in a home game now wear purple jerseys. We've also seen them wear gold helmets, white jerseys, white pants. Enough. I'm done with the stupid uniform combos. You know what LSU is right now? Like, here's something that's not going to sit well with you. You know what my alma mater is right now? I'm not even going to say LSU. I'm going to say my alma mater. My alma mater is a school whose fans rush the field after you beat Ole Miss and who wears 5 different uniform combinations in a given season. You know what my school is? My school is Missouri. That's what my school is. That's what LSU has become. You rush the field when you beat Ole Miss and you wear 5 different uniform combinations? Listen, Oregon made it their thing wearing a bajillion different uniform combinations. That's fine for Oregon because they have no history and tradition. They made that the thing that became cool for them. You know what became cool for LSU? Looking like LSU playing in Tiger Stadium and winning championships. You know what LSU is now? Fans storming the field when you beat Ole Miss and wearing 5 freaking uniform combinations. Gold jerseys in Tiger Stadium. It's just stupid. It's just stupid. And you may look at them and say, Matt, I think they look good. Fine. In a vacuum, sure. It can look fine in a vacuum. And I can even look at the white helmet, the purple jersey, and the white pants and say, that looks good in a vacuum. But it doesn't look good on LSU. That looks like TCU. That's not what LSU looks like. If you have an iconic look, you wear it. LSU has an iconic look, and at some point, you got to put your foot down and stop with all the stupid different uniform combinations and genuflecting to Nike because they want you to wear a bunch of different jerseys so they can go sell them in the gift shop. Stand for something. You have a look, you have a tradition, abide by it. Stop with the stupid uniform combinations. If you agree or disagree, leave your comments below. I'd appreciate it. All right. I need a whiskey. Please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. Thanks for making us your first listen every single day. If you're on podcasts, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review, and let a friend know if they love the Tigers. I still love the Tigers, even though they keep wearing stupid uniform combinations. Tell them about Locked on LSU, your team every day.